Shalom, 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 Bunyam Yasha'Allah, Bunyam Tazadak, Bunyam Malak, Barakathum Bahashim Yahweh Bahashim, Hamashiach Yahawashi, Kal Halayim La Yahweh Thum Yad. It's your brother Ak Lamak, represent Mount Zion Reborn, Amath Payat, the truth tellers. And before the foundations of the world, you should know that Yahweh, our power, already chose who would be his. He chose who would be his before he even decided to create the world. For it says in 2nd Esdras that he made the world for our sake. This story was never written for all nations. It was written for the children of the covenant, the scattered flock, the afflicted, the forgotten heirs of the promise. Every prophecy, every covenant, every act of mercy points back to them. So when we speak of feeding the flock, of the shepherd restoring his people, understand this. These are not open invitations to the heathen, but the fulfillment of promises made to the Israelites alone. The time has come to separate what was holy from what was profane, to remind the world and especially the afflicted children that the covenants of Yahweh were never a communal table for all nations. These were divine contracts, sealed by blood, established through promise, and confirmed through suffering, made exclusively with the house of Israel and the house of Judah, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. Those two houses never made up the multi-ethnic Gentile church. That is an assertion. The covenants are for the same people. The northern kingdom, the southern kingdom, house of Israel, house of Judah. But now we live in a time where the nations have taken what was sacred, rewritten it, renamed it, repackaged it, and redistributed it as if the word of the Most High was a public document for every soul under heaven. There is no command in the scriptures that says, put this in a book and sell it worldwide. There is no command in the scriptures that says these words can be taught by any nation under heaven. The priests were already established. The teachers were already established. And the covenants were already established. And if the Most High already chose and spoke, who is a heathen who thinks they have the authority to speak after the Most High has already spoken? Where is the fear? So, they call themselves true Israel. They parade as the new chosen, claiming a covenant that was never offered to the multi-ethnic Gentile church. They twist prophecy, mutilate the lineage of righteousness, and sit in the seat of the saints as though they inherited the promises. Blasphemy. What arrogance. They take hold of the holy things of Yahweh without fear, as though the Almighty can be deceived by the works of men. But this deception didn't stop with the heathen. It spilled into the hearts of the actual afflicted children, the very children of Zion who were beaten, colonized, and indoctrinated into Western theology. They've been taught to believe that Yahweh's mercy is universal, that his son died for all mankind, for all humanity, and that the law was fulfilled and done away with, and that the Most High's covenant people are now defined by belief alone. But tell me, since when does the Most High break his own word? You even quote Malachi within your churches and boldly declare that he changes not. But the entire religion of Gentile Christian churches marks the biggest change in the history of man. So since when does he make a covenant with those he never called? You've never known Yahweh. You've never feared him. Because if you feared him, you would never dare to alter his covenant, nor place yourselves in the position of his chosen seed. You would know of his judgments and how harsh and how critical they were, even amongst the ones that he loved. You would tremble before his judgments. You would acknowledge his order. Instead, you build your temples to yourselves, put crosses on them, and call it worship. You call it the Lord's house. You quote his apostles while oppressing his people. You brand his word with your seal, but you were never written in his book. And to the afflicted children lost among the heathen, still in darkness, masquerading as the light, this lesson is for you. You are the reason Yahawashi was even sent to begin with, because he is the light that's going to bring you out of darkness and give you salvation, deliver you from the hands of the heathen, and give you salvation. It is to remind you that the table was always yours. The bread was always yours. The promises, the covenants, the inheritance, all yours. The children eat first. The dogs can wait. Because Yahweh is not mocked. His mercy is precise. His covenant is blood bound. His word stands eternal. And he never broke bread with beast. They say God loves everybody. The scripture says he actually hates a people he created. They say the covenant is open to all. He says, I will establish it with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. Show me where Yahweh ever claimed any of the things that you claim. Show me where he swore an oath to the strangers of the land instead of the seed he formed. Show me where out of his mouth he declares his love for anyone else on the earth outside of his chosen, whom he afflicted until an appointed time. He didn't. He said, you only have I known out of all the families of the earth, so it's you I'm going to punish. That's not a universal love for all mankind. That's covenant precision and an unbreakable promise which he fulfilled. He said, I have wounded you with an incurable wound. So the Most High is righteous in his blessing, and he is righteous when he punishes those he loves. So before the foundation of the world, the Most High already knew who would carry his name and who would bear his chastisement and who would rise again in righteousness. That's why the prophets speak of a remnant according to the election of grace. It was never about chance. It was never about anybody on the earth who believed in Jesus. For Jesus, Hamashiach Yahawashi, was not sent for everybody on the earth to believe in him. He was sent unto the Israelites. Period. It was about lineage and obedience. The curses, the captivities, the punishments, none of that fell on Rome, on Greece, on Edom. It fell on the Israelites because the children were being corrected, not cast away. And the punishments begin at the Lord's house first. And that's what the world can't comprehend. They look at our suffering and think we're forsaken. But no. Yahweh's discipline is the proof of ownership. The very mark that he placed on his people for the nations to be able to look into the world and pick them out and say that those are Yahweh's people. Look at them. The curses are on them as a identifier. The nations prosper in wickedness because they were never his sons. They're bastards, feeding off crumbs that fell from our captivity. And yes, through us, the nations were blessed. Through our suffering, they built kingdoms. And in these shall all the nations of the world be blessed. Oh yes, it happened. Look around. Yet even in affliction, the promise remains. The same power that scattered us will gather us. The same word that judged us will justify us, because his covenant doesn't change hands. It returns home. I pray you understand that. Before the Gentiles ever heard the name of Christ, he was already sent to redeem his people from their sins. Before the cross, before church buildings, before Rome ever touched the scrolls, Yahweh declared, I will be their God, and they shall be my people. That's not a new covenant. That's a kept one. This is the book of Hosea, chapter 5, verse 15, and it reads, I will go and return to my place till they acknowledge their offense and seek my face. In their affliction, they will seek me early. That's where the story starts. The Most High didn't abandon his people. He stepped back to let the punishment finish its work. Every captivity, every lash, every curse in Deuteronomy 28, Deuteronomy 4, Leviticus 26, the curse of the law, all of it was proof that the covenant still stood. Because the covenant includes both chastening and redemption. And It never includes redeeming heathens, nor chastening them. Only those foreknown, those chosen from the beginning, could bear that correction and yet still be promised deliverance. Even when he withdraws, he remembers. The children were left to hunger, to know the weight of their disobedience. But this absence is not abandonment. It's a test, a refining fire. The Most High is exact. He does not punish the nations for our failures. He chastens his own. The children must be brought to the brink of despair before they can taste the fullness of his mercy. The whips, the lashes, the chains, the captivity, the hardships is a divine measurement of his people, a signal that he has not forgotten them. This is why affliction precedes inheritance until they acknowledge their offense. There can be no blessing. This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 18, verse 18 and 19, and it reads, I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren like unto thee, and I will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them all that I shall command him. And it shall come to pass that whosoever will not hearken unto my words, which he shall speak in my name, I will require it of him. This wasn't a promise to the entire world. It was a covenant word to the Israelites. A prophet from among their brethren makes it plain. The prophet, like unto Moses, would arise from within Yasha'Allah, from within Israel, from within Judah, not from another nation. That prophet is Yahawashi, sent to restore the covenant people. Those who reject him aren't rejecting a teacher. They're rejecting the authority of the Most High himself. It says, I will require it of him, which means there's judgment attached to ignoring this command. Christianity universalized this verse, but the Most High was speaking exclusively to his chosen seed. This is the line drawn. Those who obey Yahawashi's words live. Those who don't are cut off. This is the book of Acts chapter 3 verse 22 and 23, and it reads, For Moses truly said unto the fathers, A prophet shall the Lord your God raise up unto you of your brethren, like unto me. Him shall ye hear in all things whatsoever he shall say unto you. And it shall come to pass that every soul which will not hear that prophet shall be destroyed from among the people. Peter just confirmed it. The prophet is Yahawashi, the servant who fulfills the words spoken through Moses. And he spoke all the words which the Father gave him to speak. Those who refuse him, who reject his authority, are cut off from the people. No mercy, no compromise. The heathen call themselves believers, yet they are strangers in this house. They claim his blood washes all, yet they have never borne the curse nor endured the chastisement. Their faith is hollow, for it has never been tested by the fire of the covenant. Yahweh does not honor what he never established. This is the book of Luke, chapter 21, verse 20 through 24, and it reads, "And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. And let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out. And let not them that are in the countries enter therein too. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled." Christ himself confirmed that the curses would continue even after his death and resurrection. He even prophesied the fall of Jerusalem, which took place in 70 AD, long after he died. This was not random. This was the judgment written long ago. And the phrase "led away captive into all nations" seals our identity in the prophecy, because no other people on the planet fits this pattern. It says the Gentiles treading down Jerusalem, which shows the shift in power. The Israelites fell from their lofty spot, and the heathen rose into power, and they took over the land and all that was in it. But note the time marker. It says until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled, meaning that their dominion has an expiration date. We are living in the tail end of that time, where Yahweh is beginning to awaken his people again. The vengeance that Yahawashi spoke of is twofold. It punished the Israelites for disobedience, but it also sets the stage for payback upon the nations who overstepped their boundaries. This is the book of Romans chapter 8, verse 29 and 30, and it reads, "For whom he did foreknow, he also did predestinate to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brethren. Moreover, whom he did predestinate, them he also called, and whom he called, them he also justified, and whom he justified, them he also glorified." This isn't about random believers across the earth. This is lineage, foreknown, predestined. Foreknow means he already had a relationship with them. That's covenant talk. Yahweh knew the Israelites before they were born as a nation, and those he foreknew, he predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son. I just read Deuteronomy 18. Those are the only people that he was sending his Son to. This is restoration, not replacement. It is the refining of a bloodline through faith and obedience. Justified doesn't mean excused. It means made right again through correction and mercy. The Most High's plan never changed. It was always to bring his chosen people back into righteousness, not to open a new covenant with the heathen, predestined, not accidental, foreknown, not random happenstance, forgiven only after punishment, only after remembering themselves. The Most High does not gamble with souls. The nations were never measured against this standard because the covenant was never offered to them. Only the Israelites bear the weight of correction and the glory of redemption. Only they taste the full circle of chastisement and mercy. The rest may watch. They're definitely going to mock. They may even envy. But they are not the heirs of the covenant. Yahweh's mercy is precise. It is not universal. It is not democratic. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 40 verse 15 through 17, and it reads, "Behold, the nations are a drop of a bucket and are counted as the small dust of the balance. Behold, he taketh up the isles as a very little thing. And Lebanon is not sufficient to burn, nor the beast thereof sufficient for a burnt offering. All nations before him are as nothing, and they are counted to him less than nothing and vanity." This scripture silences the delusion of equality among the nations. The Most High declares openly that all the other nations are as nothing, less than nothing in comparison to the Israelites' worth. That's not hatred. That's divine order from the one who inhabits eternity and created all things. The world promotes inclusivity, but Yahweh promotes distinction. The chosen and the rejected, the holy and the profane. And this is why the world rejects the Bible as it is written, because the truth of the Israelites' election shatters their pride. To the Most High, the other nations are the background, the scenery for the Israelites' story of judgment and redemption. That's how the covenant operates. Through separation and purpose. Pride blinds the heathen and the deceived children alike. They cannot comprehend the power of Yahweh's hand, nor the purpose of his selection. And this is the secret the nations fail to grasp. He does not measure by strength, wealth, or wisdom. He measures by covenant, lineage, and fidelity. This is the book of Colossians chapter 2 verse 13 through 16, and it reads, "And you being dead in your sins and the uncircumcision of your flesh hath he quickened together with him, having forgiven you all trespasses, blotting out the handwriting of the ordinances that was against us, which was contrary to us, and took it out of the way, nailing it to his cross. And having spoiled principalities and powers, he made a show of them openly, triumphing over them in it. Let no man therefore judge you in meat or drink, or in respect of a holy day, or in the new moon, or of the Sabbath days." So Paul was not abolishing the law. First of all, he does not even have the authority. Only Christians believe Paul's voice amplifies over Yahweh. But the great apostle was identifying the curses that came from breaking the law. The ordinances contrary to us are the judgments written in Deuteronomy and Leviticus. not the commandments themselves. The law exposes sin, but the curse punishes it. Yahawashi's sacrifice removes the penalty, not the principle. That's why the righteous still keep the law through faith, not to earn salvation, but to walk in the covenant renewed by his blood. Those who use this passage to justify lawlessness twist Paul's words just as Peter warned. The quickening Paul speaks of is resurrection from disobedience into obedience, from rebellion back into the covenant alignment. The heathen never endured the yoke of the cursed because they are the ones who enslaved the Israelites. How could the law and the handwriting of the ordinances be against the heathen when they were never in the covenant to begin with? These people claim the promises. They stand in churches calling themselves true Israel, while the children starve, wondering if the table was ever even theirs. Yahweh's covenant is not for the untested. His promises are not for the arrogant. His promises are not for those who are in rulership, those who mock, those who steal, those who call themselves elect without bearing the mark of correction. Will see the blessings pass them right on by, because Yahweh's judgment is precise, and it waits for no false claims. This is the book of Leviticus chapter 26 verse 40 through 42, and it reads, "And if they shall confess their iniquity and the iniquity of their fathers with their trespass which they trespassed against me, and that also they have walked contrary unto me, and that I also have walked contrary unto them, and have brought them into the land of their enemies, if then their uncircumcised hearts be humbled, and they then accept the punishment of their iniquity, then I will remember my covenant with Jacob, and my covenant also with Isaac, and my covenant with Abraham will I remember, and I will remember the land." Confession of your iniquities, confession of your father's iniquities, that's what triggers the remembrance. The children must first acknowledge their sin, their failures, their rebellion. Only then will the covenant be remembered. It says, "They have walked contrary unto me, and I have walked contrary unto them and brought them in the land of their enemies." This is what Paul was writing about in Colossians. That what was contrary. The reason why the letter is being written to the Colossians is because Israelites served captivity in Colossae. That's who the epistle was written to. Restoration comes after affliction. The nations are left outside of this covenant. They do not partake in the process, and they never will. The recognition of guilt is not punishment. It is the key that unlocks the door to mercy. Without acknowledgement, there is no inheritance. When we confess our iniquity, we align ourselves with the patriarch's faith, and the Most High's remembrance becomes our redemption. being temporarily cut off, and then ultimately we being established as at the beginning. How stupid is it for the black Christian to say the law is done away with? Because if it is, then you just became a permanent castaway. This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 26, verse 43 through 45, and it reads, "The land also shall be left of them, and shall enjoy her Sabbaths, while she lieth desolate without them, and they shall accept the punishment of their iniquity, because they despise my judgments, and because their soul abhorred my statutes. And yet for all that, when they be in the land of their enemies, I will not cast them away, neither will I abhor them, to destroy them utterly, and to break my covenant with them, for I am Yahweh, their God. But I will for their sakes remember the covenant of their ancestors, whom I brought forth out of the land of Egypt in the sight of the heathen, that I might be their God. I am Yahweh." So even in the enemy's lands, the covenant stands. The Most High does not abandon his inheritance. The covenant is for his people, not for the thieves, not for the oppressors, not for those who claim to be Israel without lineage and without the marks of affliction, slavery. The affliction is part of the ownership. It proves your identity, not yarmulkes, not Shirley Temple curls, and not black trench coats. The children, no matter how broken, remain his. He chastises to protect and punishes to preserve. What the nations take in pride, he restores in righteousness. Even in punishment, the mercy of Yahweh is unmatched. He scattered his people into their enemies' lands, yet declared, I will not cast them away. This is divine loyalty. The world sees the Israelites' captivity as abandonment. That's why they said in the Christian church that the Israelites failed and now it's open to everybody. This was literally the doctrine of Christianity. But the Most High calls that captivity discipline. The land rested, but the promise remained alive. Every captivity, Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Rome, America, was temporary correction, not permanent rejection. This verse destroys the lie that the Israelites were ever replaced, that the covenant with Jacob still breathes, waiting to be fulfilled in full glory when his people return in righteousness. The house of Israel and the house of Judah has never been the multi-ethnic Christian church. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 45 verse 25, and it reads, In the Lord shall all the seed of Israel be justified and shall glory. Justified who? Not all people, all the seed of Israel. The justification here is through restoration, not conversion. The Most High draws a hard line. The glory belongs to the Israelites and them alone. This verse dismantles the universal gospel pushed by the nations. Salvation was never a general invitation. It was the fulfillment of promises made to Abraham's seed. The glory the Israelites receives is not borrowed, it's inherited. Every trial, curse, and affliction leads to this moment of vindication, when the world will see who Yahweh's chosen truly are. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 53 verse 10 and 11, and it reads, "Yet it pleased Yahweh to bruise him, and he had put him to grief. When thou shalt make his soul an offering for sin, he shall see his seed, he shall prolong his days, and the pleasure of Yahweh shall prosper in his hand. He shall see the travail of his soul, and shall be satisfied. By his knowledge shall my righteous servant justify many, for he shall bear their iniquities." Many Christians and apologists have asked, if only the Israelites are saved, then what was the point of sending Jesus? That question is an admission of biblical ignorance and ineptitude. The servant suffers, bears the iniquity, and justifies the elect. You can read this chapter alone and derive at that conclusion. Heathens aren't mentioned here. This is precision. This is selection. This is justice wrapped in mercy. Only the foreknown receive the fullness of this suffering and its reward. The others, they watch, helpless and unworthy. The servant's suffering is not for the stranger, not for the heathen, not for those who claim without lineage. It's the weight of the covenant carried by the chosen alone. This is the book of 2nd Esdras chapter 6 verse 53 through 59, and it reads, "And upon the 6th day thou gavest the command unto the earth, that before thee it shall bring forth beast, cattle, and creeping things. And after these things Adam also, whom thou made Lord of all thy creatures, of him come we all, and the people also whom thou hast chosen. All this I have spoken before thee, O Lord, because thou made the world for our sakes. As for the other people which also come of Adam, thou hast said, they are nothing, but be like unto spittle, and hast likened the abundance of them unto a drop that falleth from a vessel. And now, O Lord, behold, these heathen, which have been ever reputed as nothing, have begun to be lords over us, and to devour us. But we thy people, whom thou hast called thy firstborn, thy only begotten, and thy fervent lover, are given into their hands. And if the world be made for our sakes, why do we not possess an inheritance with the world? How long shall this endure?" Prophet Ezra's cry is timeless. He wrestled with the same injustice that we see today. The chosen people enslaved, the heathen ruling over them in pride. But this lament isn't hopelessness, it's prophetic. It reminds us that the reversal is near. The nations ruling over the Israelites were never chosen. They were allowed to rise for a time. Notice Prophet Ezra is quoting Prophet Isaiah, saying that the nations were counted as nothing, but their reign feeds the fire of judgment that's coming. Yahweh calls Israel, the Israelites, his firstborn, meaning they're the priority. They have the inheritance, and they will be given the authority. And that hasn't changed. The world flipped the order, but the prophecy will flip it back. The chosen will rise, The rulers of this world will bow before the covenant people whom they once oppressed. The children were not only chastised by captivity and punishment, they were pursued, hunted, and devoured by the beast of the nations. Yahweh allowed the wild, the oppressors, and the wicked to consume what was his, to teach the children the full weight of sin, rebellion, and forgetfulness. The flock was scattered, the innocents were torn, the faithful were tried, the prideful perished. This is the reality the heathens refuse to see. But the time is near when the flock will be gathered and the flock will eat. This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 34, verse 12 through 16, and it reads, "As a shepherd seeketh out his flock in the day that he is among his sheep that are scattered, so will I seek out my sheep, and I will deliver them out of the places where they have been scattered in the cloudy and dark day. And I will bring them out from the people and gather them from the countries, and will bring them into their own land and feed them upon the mountains of Israel by the rivers and all the inhabited places of the country. And I will feed them in a good pasture, and upon the high mountains of Israel shall their fold be, and they shall lie in a good fold, and in a fat pasture shall they feed upon the mountains of Israel." So can the children eat? "And I will feed my flock and cause them to lie down, saith Yahweh, and I will seek that which was lost, and bring again that which was driven away. And I will bind up that which was broken, and I will strengthen that which was sick. But I will destroy the fat and the strong, and I will feed them with judgment." This is Yahweh reclaiming his role personally. He says, "I will seek out my sheep," not the church, not the priesthood of the Catholicism, not the nation, not America, but he will himself. He is declaring divine intervention. Can the children eat? After the flock was devoured and scattered, Yahweh promises to personally gather them again. And this is why the awakening we are seeing now cannot be stopped, because it's not man-made. It's not man's movement. It's prophecy. The good pasture represents the renewed covenant, the knowledge of truth, the identity restored. The broken are being bound up right now. The sick are being healed by remembrance and repentance. No political system can stop the regathering, because it's not carnal, it's divine. The shepherds failed. They were blind, greedy, and corrupt. The flock suffered because of their negligence and pride. Yet Yahweh himself searches, gathers, and feeds. Can the children eat? Even amid destruction, he ensures the survival of the elect. The beast devoured, the highways were empty, the children cried, and yet he watched. Every bite of the oppressor's hands, every slaughter in the streets, every attempt to erase the children was all accounted for. Justice was always planned. The children were never alone. Even in devastation, there is a hand that guides, a mind that plots restoration, and a heart that never abandons the chosen. The lesson is brutal but necessary. Obedience, faithfulness, and humility are forged in suffering. This is the book of Zechariah, chapter 11, verse 4 and 5, and it reads, Thus saith Yahweh, feed the flock of the slaughter, whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty. And they that sell them say, Blessed be the Lord, for I am rich, and their own shepherds pity them not. This is a direct indictment against the nations and against our own corrupt leaders. The flock of the slaughter is the Israelites under oppression, bought, sold, lynched, imprisoned, and gunned down. Their possessors hold themselves not guilty. They justify every act of violence, every enslavement, every system that profits from our pain. Blessed be the Lord, for I am rich. They even thank God for our destruction. That's the hypocrisy of the empire. And our own shepherds, our religious leaders, our politicians, even our pastors, pity them not. They defend the system instead of defending the people. Yahweh sees it all, and he's preparing judgment for both the oppressor and the sellout. The flock will no longer be food for those who claim holiness while devouring the holy. This is the book of Zephaniah, chapter 3, verse 11 through 15, and it reads, In that day shalt thou not be ashamed for all thy doings, wherein thou hast transgressed against me, for then will I take away out of the midst of thee them that rejoice in thy pride, and thou shalt no more be haughty because of my holy mountain. I will also leave in the midst of thee an afflicted and poor people, and they shall trust in the name of Yahweh. And the remnant of Israel shall not do iniquity nor speak lies, neither shall a deceitful tongue be found in their mouth, for they shall feed and lie down, and none shall make them afraid. Can the children eat? Verse 14. Sing, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O Israel. Be glad and rejoice with all the heart, O daughter of Jerusalem. Yahweh had taken away thy judgments. He had cast out thine enemy. The King of Israel, even Yahweh, is in the midst of thee. Thou shalt see evil no more. And this is the turn. This is the point where judgment shifts from the Israelites' punishment to the Israelites' redemption. The Most High promises to remove the proud and purify the remnant. This isn't for all Israel, but for the humbled and refined. You must repent. The Most High had taken away thy judgments, meaning the curses have run their course. The captivity is ending, and he had cast out thine enemies. That's the reversal of power. The enemy that once devoured will now be devoured by judgment. When he says the King of Israel is in the midst of thee, that's Yahawashi ruling among his people. Not in Rome, not in Washington, D.C., but in Zion. This prophecy closes the mouth of every beast that rose against us. The scattered flock becomes a kingdom again, and the shepherd returns to reign among them. When the Most High speaks of feeding his people, he's not talking about the nations. He's not feeding strangers at his table. He's feeding. The feeding represents restoration, nourishment, and truth, something only a shepherd of Israel can give. The shepherd tending to the flock. When the world scattered us, stripped us of identity, and left us hungry for righteousness, the Most High promised that He Himself would feed His flock. So the question remains, can the children eat? All the other nations keep trying to put their hands on the table, but every prophet who spoke knew the meaning. The Israelites would not remain hungry forever. The shepherd would return, gather his people, and fill them with knowledge, wisdom, and understanding and strength. This is the book of Hosea, chapter 2, verse 18 through 23, and it reads, "And in that day will I make a covenant for them with the beast of the field, and with the fowls of heaven, and with the creeping things of the ground. And I will break the bow and the sword and the battle out of the earth, and will make them to lie down safely. And I will betroth thee unto me forever. Yeah, I will betroth thee unto me in righteousness, and in judgment, and in loving kindness, and in mercies. I will even betroth thee unto me in faithfulness, and thou shalt know Yahweh. And it shall come to pass in that day, I will hear, saith Yahweh, I will hear the heavens, and they shall hear the earth, and the earth shall hear the corn, the wine, and the oil, and they shall hear Jezreel. And I will sow her unto me in the earth, and I will have mercy upon her that had not obtained mercy. And I will say to them which were not my people, they are my people, and they shall say, Thou art my God." Here is the Most High restoring His marriage, but it's with the Israelites and not the nations. He binds them in righteousness and mercy, not in pretense. The betrothal represents protection, care, and intimacy. It's a spiritual feeding, nourishment, and restoration. Even when He calls those which were not my people, it is always framed in the context of the Israelites' witness and covenant fulfillment. The nations see, but the feast is His bride's alone. Those who eat His bread are chosen, the rest observe. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 3, verse 14 and 15, and it reads, "Turn, O backsliding children, saith Yahweh, for I am married unto you, and I will take you one of a city and two of a family, and I will bring you to Zion. And I will give you pastors according to mine heart, which shall feed you with knowledge and understanding." So can the children eat? The Most High calls His children back, not the heathens, not strangers. This feeding is spiritual, born of repentance and restoration. The shepherd's voice reaches across the lands, plucking out His chosen, one of a city, two of a family. That's not a mass conversion. That's a divine selection, a remnant, if you will. He appoints pastors after His own heart, men of truth and understanding, to feed His flock the bread that endures. These are not entertainers. These are not televangelists. These are not prosperity preachers. They are vessels of Yahweh's purpose, feeding the remnant until they remember who they are. This is the book of 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 2 through 4, and it reads, "Feed the flock of God which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, but of a ready mind, neither as being lords over God's heritage, but being ensamples to the flock. And when the chief shepherd shall appear, ye shall receive a crown of glory that fadeth not away." Apostle Peter echoes the same order: feed the flock. So can the children eat? It says, not dominate them. Do not exploit them. The flock doesn't belong to man. It belongs to Yahweh. The chief shepherd, Yahawashi, is the one who will appear and reward those who kept watch over his sheep. The feeding of the flock is a sacred charge, a labor of love and sacrifice. Those who feed for gain devour the sheep, but those who feed for righteousness preserve them until the chief shepherd returns to restore all things. This is not religion. It is covenant work, a sure promise of the Most High, and his words do not return void. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verse 11, and it reads, "And he shall feed his flock like a shepherd. He shall gather the lambs with his arm and carry them in his bosom, and shall gently lead those that are with young." This is the tenderness of divine strength. So can the children eat? He's feeding the flock like a shepherd. The same hands that strike down the nations cradle his people. The same hands, the lamb and the lion. He feeds his flock personally. He doesn't delegate this to heathens. He gathers them himself with his own arms. The lambs, the sheep, are the weak, the broken, the exiled, but he carries them near his heart. No nation or government or false shepherd can offer this kind of care and intimacy. Only the true shepherd of the Israelites restores with gentleness after judgment. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 23, verse 3 through 8, and it reads, "And I will gather the remnant of my flock out of all countries whither I have driven them, and I will bring them again to their folds, and they shall be fruitful and increase. And I will set up shepherds over them, which shall feed them, and they shall fear no more, nor be dismayed. Neither shall they be lacking, saith Yahweh. Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, I will raise unto David a righteous branch, and a king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. In his days Judah shall be saved, and Israel shall dwell safely. And this is his name whereby he shall be called, the Lord our righteousness. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that they shall no more say, Yahweh liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, but Yahweh liveth, which brought up and which led the seed of the house of Israel out of the north country, and from all countries whither I had driven them, and they shall dwell in their own land. I ask again, can the children eat? This prophecy is direct. He will gather his flock out of all countries. He appointed a Messiah to do the delivering. So how can the Israelites be in the land with no Messiah? This means they're being redeemed out of those who are powerful, more powerful than them. This means a captivity took place. This means an exile happened. The feeding comes after the gathering, because only then can his people truly rest. These shepherds are righteous, not deceivers. Once the true flock is fed and restored, fear and lack are removed. Verse 8 confirms it's about the deliverance of the Israelites, not from Egypt, but from the north country and all the lands of their scattering. This deliverance is supposed to overshadow and far surpass the deliverance that took place from Egypt. My question is, has it happened yet? How can any Israelite be in the country without this deliverance? This is the same shepherd who drove them out. The same one will bring them home and feed them in peace by the hands of his elected Messiah. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 49 verse 6 through 10, and it reads, "And he said, It is a light thing that thou shouldest be my servant to raise up the tribes of Jacob and to restore the preserved of Israel. I will also give thee for a light to the Gentiles, that thou mayest be my salvation unto the end of the earth. Thus saith Yahweh, the Redeemer of Israel, and his Holy One, to him whom man despiseth, to him whom the nation abhorreth, to a servant of rulers, kings shall see and arise, princes also shall worship, because of Yahweh that is faithful, and the Holy One of Israel, and he shall choose thee. Thus saith Yahweh, in an acceptable time have I heard thee, and in the day of salvation have I helped thee. And I will preserve thee and give thee for a covenant of the people, to establish the earth and to cause to inherit the desolate heritages, that thou mayest say to the prisoners, Go forth. To them that are in darkness, show yourselves, and they shall feed in the ways, and their pastures shall be in all the high places. They shall not hunger nor thirst, neither shall the heat nor sun smite them. For he that hath mercy on them shall lead them, even by the springs of water shall he guide them. Can the children eat? This is not the inclusion of the heathen. This is when the restoration of the Israelites being so powerful that even the nations will witness it. The servant's mission begins with the raising up of the tribes of Jacob. That's the first priority: feeding, restoring, and awakening them. The light to the Gentiles is a revelation of the Israelites' glory through the Messiah's work. Verses 9 through 10 shows that those who were bound and hungry will now eat in abundance. Can the children eat? The shepherd satisfies his flock, and let the nations watch as he restores what they once oppressed. This is the book of Revelations chapter 7 verse 17, and it reads, For the Lamb which is in the midst of the throne shall feed them, and shall lead them unto the living fountains of waters, and God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. Here the prophecy comes full circle. The Lamb, the same shepherd, now stands feeding his people directly. Can the children eat? No temple, no middlemen, no deceit. Living waters flows straight from the throne. The tears are the result of centuries of captivity, oppression, and loss, but the shepherd wipes them away himself. The feeding here is eternal. No more hunger, no more thirst. The Israelites, restored and redeemed, stands before the throne, fed with truth, life, and peace forever. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 58 verse 11 through 14, and it reads, "And Yahweh shall guide thee and satisfy thy soul in drought, and make fat thy bones, and thou shalt be like a watered garden, and like a spring of water whose waters fail not. And they shall be of thee, shall build up the old waste, and thou shalt raise up the foundations of many generations. And thou shalt be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of paths to dwell in. If thou wilt turn away thy foot from the Sabbath, from doing thy pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, and the holy of Yahweh honorable, and shall honor him, not doing thine own ways, nor finding thine own pleasure, nor speaking thine own words, then thou shalt delight thyself in Yahweh, and I will cause thee to ride upon the high places of the earth, and feed thee with the heritage of Jacob thy father, for the mouth of Yahweh has spoken it." This is the promise of a nation revived. The same people who once thirsted in desolate lands are now watered gardens. The shepherd leads continually, not just in moments of prosperity, but through drought and despair. He feeds the soul until the bones are strengthened and the people flourish again. Verse 14 ties it to the covenant, the restoration of Jacob's heritage. He shall feed thee with the heritage of Jacob thy father. This is the true feeding. Can the children eat? Being satisfied with righteousness and guided by the Most High himself as he rebuilds Zion. The nations cannot have their hands on this table. The Most High feeds his children the bread of life, the waters of restoration, the guidance of the flock. All are reserved for the Israelites, for those in covenant. False teachers, corrupt pastors, and pretenders may claim access, but the scriptures are clear. The flock is fed by the shepherd himself. The nations may look on, the dogs may wait, but the children eat. Feeding is not symbolic for all humanity. It is exclusive, covenantal, and prophetic. This is the book of John, chapter 6, verse 1 through 6, and it reads, "After all these things, Yahawashi, Jesus, went over the Sea of Galilee, which is the Sea of Tiberias. And a great multitude followed him because they saw his miracles which he did on them that were diseased. And Jesus, Yahawashi, went up into a mountain, and there he sat with his disciples. And the Passover, a feast of the Jews, was nigh. And when Jesus then lifted up his eyes and saw a great company come unto him, he saith unto Philip, Whence shall we buy bread that these may eat? And this he said to prove him, for he himself knew what he would do. So the feeding of the multitude was not a universal charity. It's the Israelites being fed. The people that followed Yahawashi were from the covenant nation, scattered and hungry spiritually. Notice his concern that these may eat. It's specific, deliberate, and intentional. He doesn't feed the entire world. The miracles are a lesson. Spiritual nourishment follows covenant obedience. This is the foundation of prophecy. The children eat. The pretenders may gather in crowds, but without covenant, the bread of life does not satisfy them. This is the book of John, chapter 6, verse 35, and it reads, I am the bread of life. He that cometh to me shall never hunger, and he that believeth on me shall never thirst. Here is the declaration of exclusive provision. Yahawashi is the shepherd. The bread is for those who come through him. He is not speaking to every human soul indiscriminately, but to the covenant children who recognize his authority and lineage. Hunger here is both spiritual and prophetic, a state of being lost in captivity, in sin, or in ignorance. The covenant children eat and are satisfied. The world waits outside the gates. Every universalist teaching, every all are Israel doctrine is dismantled by this verse. The bread is not for everyone. Notice the duality. Bread for body, bread for soul, water for survival, water for righteousness. Every act of feeding is both physical and prophetic. From the manna in the wilderness to the bread of life, which is Yahawashi, bound to the Israelites, bound to covenant obedience, never to the heathens masquerading as the children. This is the book of Micah, chapter 5, verse 4, and it reads, And he shall stand and feed in the strength of the Lord, in the majesty of the name of the Lord his God, and they shall abide. For now he shall be great until the ends of the earth. The Messiah feeds in divine strength. This is literal and spiritual. The covenant people are strengthened, guided, and nourished. The ends of the earth witness this feeding, but they are the witnesses, not participants. Can the children eat? This is not a generalized blessing for the nations. It is Israel-centric, the Israelites, the 12 tribes. Micah confirms that feeding is a divine act tied to covenant obedience and the revealed identity of the people. Those outside the covenant cannot claim it. The feeding witnessed in prophecy is not theoretical. Every act of provision, every restoration of truth, and moment of awakening in our scattered communities is a fulfillment of this covenantal care, seen in the streets, the homes, in the hidden assemblies, and in the minds of those who are bethinking themselves and remembering themselves. This is the book of Psalm chapter 28 verse 9, and it reads, Save thy people and bless thine inheritance. Feed them also and lift them up forever. Can the children eat? Here, the feeding is tied directly to salvation. The inheritance is the Israelites, the chosen seed. The prayer is not for the heathen or universal humanity. Feed them also emphasizes exclusivity. The children are lifted up eternally. False doctrines that say all are fed fail to see that the psalmist links feeding to the covenant inheritance. There is no substitute, no outsider access. The Most High feeds his people forever, not generically, not just spiritually in a diluted sense, but forever. Feeding is not only the act of sustenance, but the reinforcement of the covenant identity. To be fed is to be recognized. To be lifted is to be remembered. Those outside the covenant observe, but cannot partake, for obedience and lineage are the criteria. This is the book of Psalm, chapter 78, verse 69 through 72. And he built his sanctuary like high palaces, like the earth which he established forever. He chose David also his servant, and took him from the sheepfolds. From following the ewes, great with young, he brought them to feed Jacob his people, and Israel his inheritance. So he fed them according to the integrity of his heart, and guided them by the skillfulness of his hands. King David is a foreshadowing of the shepherd's care. Feeding requires skill, heart, and faithfulness, something only the covenant-appointed shepherds can provide. The flock is Yasha'Allah, the Israelites. Every teaching that says spiritual Israel ignores the careful guidance of those chosen to feed the children, to feed the flock. The faithful heart is key. Without a covenant alignment, you cannot feed the children properly. Every false pastor, corrupt shepherd, they all fail where David succeeds, and the one who descends from his loins. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 5 verse 13 through 17, and it reads, Therefore my people are gone into captivity because they have no knowledge, and their honorable men are famished, and their multitude dried up with thirst. Therefore hell hath enlarged herself, and opened her mouth without measure, and their glory and their multitude and their pomp, and he that rejoiceth shall descend into it. And the mean man shall be brought down, and the mighty man shall be humbled, and the eyes of the lofty shall be humbled. But Yahweh of hosts shall be exalted in judgment, and God that is holy shall be sanctified in righteousness. And shall the lambs feed after their manner, and the waste places of the fat ones shall the strangers eat. The Israelites were the ones taken captive for lack of knowledge. Spiritual and cultural starvation. The feeding is prophetic, people. The flock will eat again, and the mountains will hear their voice. This confirms the pattern. The shepherd feeds the children, his scattered flock, not the heathen. The hunger and exile are temporary, but restoration and feeding are permanent for those in the covenant. False teachings that obscure the Israelites' identity fail to understand that only the children are restored to the table. This is the book of John, chapter 21, verse 15, and it reads, So when they had dined, Yahawashi, Jesus, said unto Simon Peter, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me more than these? And he said unto him, Yea, Lord, thou knowest I love thee. And he saith unto him, Feed my lambs. This command is direct. Yahawashi repeats it 3 times, emphasizing feeding, the children, the lambs, the sheep are young, vulnerable, and scattered. Exactly the remnant of Yasha'Allah. The shepherd charges the appointed to nourish, protect, and teach them. The repetition obliterates any notion that the bread is for all humanity indiscriminately. Feeding the flock is a responsibility, a covenant act, a prophecy being fulfilled. So, the promises of restoration stand sure. Every vision spoken by the prophets, every word uttered by the Messiah, every covenant remembered by the Most High is moving towards fulfillment. The children who were scattered will rise, the hungry will be fed, and the weary will be strengthened. The same hand that allowed their correction will guide their redemption. No word that has gone out from the mouth of the Most High returns void. His plan is precise, His mercy deliberate, His restoration unstoppable. The flock that was once devoured will be gathered again, and no power on the earth can prevent it. The nations will know that the covenant was never broken, only paused, never given away, only hidden until its appointed time. So stand firm, Yasha'Allah, remember who you are. The shepherd has not forgotten his sheep, and the bread of life has not run out. The children will eat, the faithful will be filled, and the earth will finally know the righteousness of the one who keeps his word from generation to generation. And so, it's all honor, all glory, and all praises to Yahweh, the eternal power of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the righteous judge and the Holy One of Yasha'Allah. And blessings be upon the elect through Hamashiach Yahawashi, the anointed king, the Lion of Judah, and the deliverer of Zion, the mighty intercessor raised up by the Most High Himself. Yahweh alone is the receiver of all praise, and Yahawashi is the door, the mediator, the high priest, the vessel by whom we are reconciled and have access. May the Most High give you eyes to see, ears to hear, and a heart to obey. May your steps be ordered by His word, your faith proven by your works, and your soul preserved in the day of visitation. Barakathum Bahashem Yahweh, Bahashem Hamashiach Yahawashi, Barakathum, Banyam Yasha'Allah, Kwam Yasha'Allah, Kwam Malak, Kwam Tazadak, Call Haloyam La Yahweh Thumb Yad. It's your brother Aklamak, and I hope you are edified. And Shalom.